Alright, so for today's review, we are going to be taking a look at the Replicars 150 to scale Hitachi ZX225US-7 US. Now, this is a reduced tail swing excavator. It's not a zero turn swing excavator, it's a reduced tail swing excavator, or reduced radius swing excavator. Now, this is a relatively newer model at the time of making this review, and I figured I would show off the model once I was done doing a few changes to it. As you see it right here, this is not how you will receive the model. This is just me putting my touches on the model to personalize it for my collection. But to start off the review, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the detail on the model. So to start off with, we will take a look here at the tracks. So the tracks are nice metal tracks, and you have a fairly detailed track frame. So you have some simulated lifting points, or some decals that tell you where the lifting points are, and some simulated steps. So if you had the machine, you needed to get up onto the car body, you could. Now, unfortunately, on this 225 model, the door does not open on this like most of the newer Hitachi stuff. This door just doesn't open. But you do have some nice decals right there, and you also have a nice Hitachi decal up here, and you do have a fairly detailed cab, which is nice. In the back of the seat, you can kind of see right there, it does say Hitachi on the back, which is a nice feature. Now, all of these vents are actually a part of the casting of the car body, and then they did paint them black to give them a nice feature and a nice pop. It's a lot better, in my opinion, than just, a standard decal that they could have just stuck on there. And then you have some nice decals right here. This one kind of looks a little crooked, and you can kind of see the outline of the old decal, but that doesn't really bother me. And you do have a simulated latch right there. And then I believe this right here is a camera. And then coming to the rear of the machine, you have some nice warning decals there on the counterweight. You also have another camera right there. And you have a simulated, some paneling right there with some more simulated texture for a grill, which is nice. And then another simulated latch. You also have a nice Hitachi decal right there. You have your simulated exhaust right there. And then coming back here, you have another door, which is a part of the casting. And then coming to this side of the machine, you got a nice decal right there. And you also have a nice small decal right there, and some more simulated latches that are painted and are part of the casting. Now, you do have some nice handrails. Unfortunately, they are plastic, so you do want to be kind of careful with those, not to put too much pressure on them or grab the model by them, because you do run the risk of potentially breaking them, bending them out of shape. And then you just probably don't want to go down that road. Now, you can see that this machine does have some nice hydraulic hoses going up to the boom, and then it does follow with some hard cast lines, which are a part of the boom cast. And then we'll take a look here up on the top of the machine. You do have an engine compartment that does open. All you have to do is just pop that little latch with your finger open. And it does reveal a fairly nicely detailed engine, which is nice. And then it does close. And I like how that does have a little latch on top of there. It's not just, a little nub that's a part of the casting. It's actually a little bit of a separate piece. And then you have some simulated anti-slip texture. And then you have some more of the components, some fuel covers and things like that. And some bolts and stuff on top of the car body, which is nice. And then you come to the front of the machine, you do have a nice step right there. And then you have some great hydraulic detailing for your boom cylinders, which are, it's fairly nicely detailed right there. And then on the model, I did decide to put a ISM cab guard on there, so your model will not come with an ISM cab guard. But on the cab itself, there is a metal handrail that is on the side of the cab. But if you don't want to, again, put a cab guard on there, you're going to have to remove that handrail, as the handrail on the cab guard kind of gets in the way. So we'll go ahead and zoom out here, take a look at some more of the detail on the model. So you do have a nice Hitachi decal right here on the side of the boom, but kind of odd on this side, you don't have a Hitachi decal, so maybe that's something you want to add to your model in the future. I have to say this is the first Hitachi model that I've owned where there is no decal on this side of the boom. I know some of those, the Keiwa Komatsu models that are out there, the 400 and the 450, they don't feature a decal on this side of the boom, but it's kind of weird to see this one not have a decal on the side of the boom, but that is maybe because it's a, Japanese spec machine or whatever. But I also took the bucket that is off of I took the bucket that comes on the model. Here is the bucket itself right here. It's just, a plain bucket. I'm almost positive that it is the same bucket that comes on the older 225. It looks relatively the same. The only difference that I can really tell is this one's painted like a flat black color, and the other one was painted in Hitachi orange. Now this is held in by some little screws, like these right here, are what hold the bucket on. So in the event you want to take this off, all you need is a little tiny, I believe it's a number 0 Phillips head, to back these screws off, and then you just want to make sure you don't lose the screw in the nut, in case you want to put the attachment or the bucket back on. But on this model, I did put one of these remade Steel City concrete pulverizers, one of these little bounty concrete pulverizers, and I think it looks fairly decent on this model. I did have to make a few spacers so that the attachment didn't move around as much, but that is just for my liking. You don't have to do that, but this attachment is fairly nice. Now, the model does have your standard functionality. The boom and stick are able to move fairly well. And this model will fold up fairly nice for transport. So if you wanted to display this model on a lowboy, you could definitely do that. Or if you wanted to have it, in your diorama showing it going into a tight work environment, you can do that as well. But like I said earlier, this machine is a reduced tail swing or a reduced radius, meaning that it isn't fully reduced tail swing. So the counterweight of the machine, as you can see right there, does hang off the tracks a little bit, but it's not as much as, your standard excavator. So this is, something that can get into some tighter quarters. So you probably see a machine like this working in your cities or your urban environments, things like that, where you don't really necessarily have a lot of room to move a large machine around, but you're still going to need a machine to get the job done. Now, the one thing that I've noticed on these 225s, these newer ones, is the stick, as you can see, is definitely a little bit loose. I'm not sure, maybe if they drilled the hole just a little bit too big for the rivet up here, or maybe there's just too much, there's just a little bit of space that is in between the stick and the boom. So that is one downside. At least that's how it is on my model. I'm not going to say that's for all of the models out there, but that's one thing that I've noticed on my model. And then you also have some nice decals right here. Now, unlike the previous 225, there are no auxiliary hydraulics that run down the stick. So if you do want to plumb it with a different attachment, and you want to run up hydraulic lines for it, that is something you're going to have to add to the model, whereas the older 225 had the hard lines on the stick. So overall, this is definitely a nice model from Replicars. It's definitely nice to see a newer reduced tail swing excavator from Hitachi, since the older 225 has been out for, like I said, it's about 10, 11 years. They were at first kind of hard to find, but then they recently popped up on eBay again and were super easy and affordable. But here is the older 225 that I have. So you can see that there are quite a few differences. Now, the one thing I do like about the older 225 is the cab guard that came on it. It just fit, it just looked a lot better than the one that I put on that one. But then again, the cab guard on this one does look very nice. But this model was based off of a demolition machine, hence why it came with the cab guard. And there were some demolition attachments, a coupler that you could buy for this guy back when this model came out. But it is a nice update of the 225, and I'm glad to see that Replicars did make it. So this is my older 225, but this is what we're here to focus on, is the newer 225. So overall, definitely a nice model, and if you're looking to add it to your collection, you can either find it on eBay, or you can contact Replicars themselves. They have said that they will ship to the United States, or they will ship worldwide. Just keep in mind that it is coming from Japan. Delivery time, depending on where you buy it from, can be, a little bit long, depending on where you are in the world. For me, the seller I bought this from, I picked it up off of eBay. The seller I picked it up from actually shipped it fairly quickly. They shipped it via FedEx, so it was here quite quickly. Actually, it was here in about 3-4 days. But it did take them a couple days to get it to ship. So there is that. It took them a couple days to pack it and things like that. But I'm super happy with the model. And, as always, if you've been around my channel for a while, I pretty much can't leave an excavator model stock for too long. And this one was no exception. I think this one lasted maybe 5 to 10 minutes of being out of its packaging before I had already ripped the bucket off and was already experimenting with a different attachment, as you see the one that is on here. to put on the model. But other than that, definitely highly recommend model if you are looking to buy one. It's definitely a nice little model for your collection, and the detail and the price that you pay for it, I think is very affordable. With that being said, that's all I have for this review. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And if you like 150 scale models just as much as I do, please consider hitting that subscribe button. But that's all I have. Thanks for watching.